Remember that a mixed number is written using a whole number and a fraction, and that it represents an amount that is more than one whole. If I were to draw 3 3/4, I would need 3 whole circles. The whole number tells me how many whole circles. And I would need 3/4 of another circle. So I would shade in 3 whole circles and 3/4 or 3 out of 4 pieces of this circle. We can subtract mixed numbers using a few different strategies. If I wanted to subtract another mixed number from this, let's try taking away 1 1/4. One way I could do this is using my picture. I could actually cross off 1 1/4 circles like this. 1 whole circle and 1/4 of another circle. And then whatever's left is my answer. So I have 2 whole circles, 2 whole circles, and 2/4 of another circle. So 3 3/4 minus 1 1/4 equals 2 2/4, or 2 1/2. I could also subtract this just looking at the numbers. So let's look at 3 3/4 minus 1 1/4 again. This time I'm just going to subtract the numbers. I'm going to start by subtracting the fractions. 3/4 minus 1/4 is 2/4. And next I'm going to subtract the whole numbers. 3 minus 1 is 2. So 3 3/4 minus 1 1/4 equals 2 2/4, or 2 1/2. Let's look at a little harder example. This time I want to subtract 3 1/4 minus 1 3/4. So if I want to draw a picture to solve this problem, once again I would start by drawing the larger number. I would draw 3 1/4 this time. So that's 1, 2, 3 whole circles, and I'll need 1/4 of this circle. So I'll shade in 1, 2, 3 whole circles and 1/4 of another circle. And then I would have to cross off 1 3/4. So I would cross off 1 whole circle and 3/4. Well, I can cross off 1/4 right here, but I don't actually have any more fourths to cross off. I still need to cross off 2 more fourths. That's okay. I can easily turn a whole circle into fourths, and then I can cross off the 2 other fourths that I needed to cross off. So I crossed off 1/4. This makes 2/4, 3/4. And then what's left is my answer. So I have 1 whole circle left and 1 2/4 of another circle. So 3 1/4 minus 1 3/4 equals 1 2/4, or 1 1/2. Now let's look at that just using the numbers. So I have 3 1/4 minus 1 3/4. I go to subtract my fractions, and I already run into a problem. I can't take 3/4 away from 1/4. 3/4 is bigger than 1/4. But I know I can subtract 1 3/4 from 3 1/4. I'm just going to have to do some regrouping. I'm going to have to move some things around. Just like I did in my picture. I took a whole circle and I broke it into fourths. So just like that, I'm going to take away a whole. So instead of 3 whole, now I only have 2. And I'm going to turn that 1 whole that I just took into fourths. 1 whole equals 4 fourths. Then I'll add those 4 fourths to the 1/4 that I already have. That makes 5 fourths. Now I can subtract 2 5/4, which has the same value as 3 1/4. I can take away the 1 3/4. Let's subtract the fractions first. 5/4 minus 3/4, that's 2/4. And 2 minus 1 is 1. So once again, my answer is 1 2/4, which is 1 1/2. Let's look at kind of a shortcut way of remembering how to regroup a mixed number like this. This is how I like to remember it. So I had 3 1/4 minus 1 3/4. A shortcut way of remembering is just to take 1 from the whole number. So first you're going to take 1 away from the whole number. And then whatever your denominator happens to be, I have a 4 as my denominator. That's how much more you're going to add to the numerator. So I need to add 4 more to the 1 that I had here. 1 plus 4 more is going to make 5. And then subtract. 5/4 minus 3/4, and 2 minus 1.